Hey everyone, welcome to this tutorial on One Day, written by Martin Taylor and as arranged by Tommy Emmanuel. First, the usual stuff. The full lesson is split up into several parts and only the first part will be released on YouTube. For full access, you can check out my website or my Patreon page. Both offer different perks at different pricing points, so there should be something for everyone. If you want the tab and notation file, then do head over to the website, look up the song and click on the music notes icon. That way you'll get a 20% discount. No account or login is necessary to do this. So today we take a look at Tommy's version of the Martin Taylor song One Day. Martin Taylor wrote this song as a tribute to his son Stuart, who passed away when he was only 21 years old. Later on, because of the personal nature of the song, Tommy asked permission to arrange it in his own style. Martin gave him that permission, and as you will see when you check out the original version, Tommy put his own spin on this song to the extent that some people wouldn't even recognize some sections as the same song anymore. Now, the good news is that Tommy takes the emotional foundation of this song to heart, and he keeps it, for his habits, fairly simple. There is no showing off here. Often, when we look at one of Tommy's slower and easier pieces, there is always a difficulty spike somewhere in the song. Something like a really difficult stretch or a very fast run, but I don't think that is the case here. Everything seems very doable. The main challenge is keeping all the chords completely clean and clear, because the fragile nature of the song does punish buzzing or dead notes to a high degree. The explanation on most of the sections is quite short, with roughly 10 minutes spent on the intro, chorus and ending. The verse, however, takes longer to lay out, but more advanced players can work most of this out with a slower playthrough at the end. Do keep your eyes open for some of those trademark efficiency moves, especially in the left hand or fretting hand, that are so typical for Tommy's style. I had to reshoot several sections of this lesson because I missed a few important fingerings and I only noticed things weren't feeling as smooth as usual while recording the playthrough sections. I really thought, after doing 70 tutorials on Tommy's music, well, this is an easy one, and by not paying attention, I ended up making things more difficult for myself than necessary. Please don't make the same mistake. Okay, so let's get to playing. The guitar is in drop D tuning, so you drop down the low E string to a D. I will keep referring to this string as the low E string throughout the entire tutorial, just because we're used to calling it that way. I have the capo on the 2nd fret, as Tommy does, and I'm using a thumb pick. Now, this is going to be a point that is up for debate, because I can see why some people would doubt using the thumb pick for this song. I do get why Tommy's doing it. There are a few harmonics in here. They do sound a lot more clear when you pick them with the thumb pick, and there are also a few single note lines that are just a little bit easier to articulate with the thumb pick. But if that is not your primary concern, then you can play the whole song without a thumb pick as well. It works fine. I've tried it too. And that is all. So I'm going to dive straight into the intro. I'm going to divide the intro up into 2 parts because it's basically the same thing 2 times in a row. So here we go, the intro. That's basically where we land the first section of the intro. It's all free time. If you're following along with the transcription, I did try to sort of put this into a readable sense of time, which means that we're starting out with bars of 4, and then when the main theme enters, we're going to end up with a bar of 6. But all of this is very open. So harmonic, 12th fret on the A string, 12th fret on the D string. If you're playing a regular 14th fret guitar with the capo on the guitar, this is just right up against the guitar body. Open E string on top, and now we're going to hammer on with the index finger to the 2nd fret as an embellishment. So you play the harmonics, 12th fret, A string, D string, open E string, repick the open E string, quickly hammer on, and then continue hammering on with the pinky to the 5th fret and straight pulling back off to the 2nd fret, still holding down with the index finger. Now you're going to do the same thing, hammering on from the 2nd fret to the 5th fret, and then really quickly pull off the pinky to the 2nd fret and to the open string. There are recordings where you don't even hear that 2nd fret, where Tommy seems to hammer on from the 5th fret and then pulls off to an open string. But in the majority of times, this is what you get. Hammering on, really quickly pulling off and pulling back off to an open string, and then landing on the 3rd fret on the B string. In this case, you can pick and choose middle finger, ring finger. Doesn't make that much of a difference. Then open B string and a really quick hammer on and pull off, 1st fret straight back to the open string, and then to the 2nd fret on the G string, and you pick that twice. Then you let go, small bar on the 12th fret, and you play a harmonic roughly from the A string to the B string. So A string, D string, G string, B string. That A string is up for debate, but Tommy does seem to make sure that the B string is always in there. So harmonic. And then you go for the 10th fret with the capo here, that is going to be the 12th fret on the double marking. Ring finger. You drop down the index finger to the 7th fret and you hammer on straight back to the 9th fret. And you do the same thing 2 frets down from the 5th fret to the 7th fret. The harmonics. That is how the lick ends. So you slide up after those 2 hammer-ons back to the 9th fret with the ring finger, then 7th fret with the index finger and a quick hammer on and pull off with the middle finger from the 8th fret and back to the 7th fret. Pinky 10th fret on the B string to the 7th fret and back to the 10th fret. And that sort of concludes the first part. So those last few bars. And then we basically start with the same melody again. Now just a quick little tangent on the timing. You can play this as open as you want to. If you watch different versions by Tommy, you will see that he stretches certain notes and keeps other ones short. And then when you look at the version from a few years later, it's going to be different. So you can pick and choose how you approach this as well. I'm going to play through those first 4 bars one more time, and then you'll see most of the rest of the intro is quite similar stuff. So here we go. That's where we land, and then again, same harmonics. So that part is basically the exact same thing, only in the first bar, Tommy does that hammer on one more time. So the exact same harmonics. And now one extra pull off, only going to the 2nd fret. As soon as you end up on the open string, that means you have to move into the next part of the melody. So 3 times the same hammer on in that bar. First time, 2nd time, and 3rd time. And then we move into the next section. Now for the last part, the harmonics are going to be different. Again, we start on the A string, 12th fret, then G string, 12th fret, and then index finger 2nd fret on the high E string, pulling off to an open string. And then 3rd fret, pulling off to an open B string, putting the middle finger back down and releasing again from the open B string and quickly hammering on. So, And it's all those little extra embellishments that give it that Irish feel to the song. So make sure you include as much as you can. So those last 4 bars. Really milk the vibrato on that one note. I forgot to mention Tommy does the same thing on that high note. He really hangs on to that note and plays it almost as if he's playing it on an electric guitar. So, but that is basically the full intro. There's a very small variation at the end of the second part, but we're going to repeat those 8 bars in full. So let me start from the top again, 8 bars all the way through, and then the next 8 bars I'm going to add the magnet to the guitar. So here we go. And you can really feel, if you're playing this, the whole guitar starts resonating in a certain way. Leave as much of the open strings ringing out as possible. Now for the next part, I'm just going to put the magnet on the guitar, play through this exact same section. It's basically the exact same thing. I'm just going to add 1 or 2 variations. And then the last bar is something that you do need to learn. So here we go, the next 8 bars. So as you see, those first 6 bars, the exact same thing, only all the way at the end. We have the harmonic on the A string, the harmonic on the G string, and then instead of doing the pull-off straight from the 2nd fret to the open string, we're going to add a hammer-on with the middle finger to the 3rd fret and pull straight back off again. Another embellishment. Then the same thing, pull off, put the middle finger back down on the 3rd fret B string, and then you drop in the index finger 2nd fret on the G string for a full D chord. It looks like a D power chord at the moment. You play the low E string together with the B string, D string, G string, and then you drop down the ring finger on the 4th fret on the A string, and you drop a small bar across the 2nd fret G string to high E string. So 1, 2, 3, drop the bar and the ring finger, high E string, pinky 5th fret on the high E string, and we're going to move this all up to the 7th fret. That is the first chord of the verse. This is where we switch to a time feel of 6, so a bar of 6/8, so no counting to 4 here. You're going to feel the middle of the bar, 1, 2, 1. But we're going to divide every single beat up in 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. That is where we end up. So that is the whole intro. Only the last bar is in tempo, everything else is completely open. So maybe one more time, the full thing with the magnet on the guitar, and then we can close down this first part and move into the verse. Here we go. So that was a rather short video, or a rather short first video for my habit. There is a Guitar World tutorial online where Tommy does some explaining of the verse as well, so you can get to work with that too. If you do want access to the rest of the lesson, then now is the time to switch over to my Patreon page or my website. I'll see you there.